Welcome back to Fantasy Files 1054 or FFX54 for short. I'm super excited to get into this week's videos because we have told you before, but we're a newer channel. Our first video was made this offseason leading up to the 2022-2023 season. So slowly but surely, we've been upgrading the channel little by little. And we hit a pretty big upgrade for running back and wide receiver ranking videos from here on out. And I think you guys will find it a lot more enjoyable of an experience to watch. So go ahead and hit the like button down below. Subscribe to the channel for running back and wide receiver ranking videos every single week, as well as a live stream before kickoff on Sunday. But that should be it. Let's just get right into it and show you what we've been working on. All right, so we got this new format here that, it's the same information other than the small change that we're doing top 30 running backs and wide receivers instead of top 36. I think once you get past 30, it's not very helpful anyways. And I'm trying to get the video a little bit shorter. I think sub 30 minutes is a good duration for the video. But here in this new layout, we have our ranking. So this is going to be the same information that we provided previously, but it's just going to have... you'll see, but the ad that I really think is going to give you guys some more value is we're going to have a live look at what I'm looking at over here, and this is fantasy points allowed to specific positions. So here we have the running back position selected, full PPR, and ESPN is what I use, 2022-2023 season. You can go onto this website and, adjust this to whatever you're looking for. But for this video, we'll be using this, and you guys will be able to see it real time because as I'm making the video, I'm going through and giving you live stats from here. So now you can just see it in a ranked order. So without further ado, let's get into our number one running back on the week, and it's going to be Austin Ekeler versus Seattle. Now, this is a really good matchup. Seattle allows a ton of points, both on the ground and through the air. And I think it's going to be a high-scoring game, and Austin Ekeler is in a perfect situation to succeed here. If you look at fantasypros.com, it's given it an 8.6 matchup rating, and that's from this stat you see right here, 25.4 fantasy points per game allowed to the running back position. And we saw a lot less of Joshua Kelly last week, so I bumped Austin Ekeler up to the number one position for this week. He's the number one running back on ESPN Fantasy. He's getting tons of touches out of the backfield. He's getting a lot of, but the most of his work is coming through the air, which in a full PPR league is extremely valuable. And he's finally getting that touchdown efficiency back up. So he's going to be our number one running back on the week. Shortly behind him, we have Jacksonville Jaguars versus the New York Giants, and Saquon Barkley. Also a very good matchup. However, I think that the likelihood of the Seattle Seahawks game being a little bit higher scoring of a game is a little bit more enticing, even though we just saw Deion Jackson just drop 28 points and took the number one spot of the week at the running back position. I think Saquon Barkley is going to have a little slower of a week. I know that's probably more of a gut feeling than anything else. But I do believe in the Jacksonville Jaguar defense more so than the Seattle Seahawks defense. But either way, these two guys, you're most likely you don't have both. If you do, you're starting them both. If you have one, you're starting them. So not much. Don't get too caught up on one versus two. It's more about these tiers. And one thing I want to clarify also before we move on is that the tiers do say S, A, B, C, D, E. Just kind of like the classic format for the background, but it's going to be your top 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. It's just going to be 5. So we're not doing tiers like you saw on our preseason ranking videos. This is just going to be top 5 in order. So moving ahead to number 3, we're going to have Christian McCaffrey. This is a very difficult matchup for them. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are the best defense against the running back position at 15.9 fantasy points per game, but Christian McCaffrey is not like every other running back. He's getting a lion's share of the targets in general on the Carolina Panthers, and he's doing a lot with them as well as getting those touches on the ground. So he's kind of returning to old form, and regardless of the matchup, I still like Christian McCaffrey at number 3 going into week 7. Right behind Christian McCaffrey, we have Derrick Henry coming off the bye. He's rested up. He's going into a divisional game versus the Indianapolis Colts at at home. And the reason that I've been loving Derrick Henry way more during the season than I did preseason, because I really wasn't a huge fan of Derrick Henry preseason based off of the lack of usage in the passing game as well as his age. But all of a sudden, you're starting to see Derrick Henry get 5 to 6 targets out of the backfield, along with his dominant running performances, and he's the entire offense. So coming off a bye, I think he's pretty much wheels up, ready for a big week, and he's going to repeat another 20-point plus game in a row. That might be 3 in a row, 4 in a row at this point. But Derrick Henry, number 4 on the week. You're not thinking about it twice, throwing him in your lineup. Right behind Derrick Henry, out of respect, we have Nick Chubb. Now, if we go down to see where the Baltimore Ravens are, it's kind of a whatever matchup, kind of middle of the pack, allowing 22.4 fantasy points per game. But Nick Chubb has looked like the best running back in the league, aside from Saquon Barkley this year, just as far as what he does with the ball on the ground. Now, the issue with Nick Chubb is he doesn't get really any touches out of the backfield through the air, because most of that goes to Kareem Hunt. But we can't ignore the talent, because he could break off a 3-touchdown game at any point. And I think that Nick Chubb is going to just stay in this top 5 unless proven otherwise. I know he had a slow week last week, but I think that's even more of a push for the coaching staff to get Nick Chubb some more touches. And I think we see that this week going up against the Baltimore Ravens on a primetime game. So look out for Nick Chubb to bounce back. If you're a Nick Chubb owner, don't be worried about it. Throw him in your lineup and look for him to return to old form in week 7. Right behind Nick Chubb, we have our man, Jonathan Taylor. Welcome back, Jonathan Taylor. Also, in that same matchup with Derrick Henry, it's going to be Derrick Henry versus Jonathan Taylor. Now, a lot of people are worried about his injury, but today we got news that he was practicing in full. He practiced a little bit last week, and it was kind of a last-minute sit. I was a Jonathan Taylor owner, and I was expecting him to play last week, and I think it was Saturday that we got the news he wasn't going to play. It was very late, which means he was really close to returning last week, which is why, all that coupled with the fact he practiced today, I'm pretty much going to guarantee that he starts, and he's coming off of a multiple-week rest. So I think Jonathan Taylor's going to have fresh legs. I think the Indianapolis Colts offense has figured a little bit out. We saw Alec Pierce produce. We saw Deion Jackson produce. We saw Michael Pittman produce. And there's no reason Jonathan Taylor won't come into this offense and also produce against a Tennessee Titans defense that, again, where is Tennessee? It's 21.2 fantasy points per game, kind of upper middle of the pack right here. But I'm not worried about the matchup. It's Jonathan Taylor. Just if you're worried about Jonathan Taylor at all, think of Jamar Chase earlier this season and the nerves that those owners had. Think of Justin Jefferson after 2 slow games in the beginning of the season. Those owners started to freak out. And Jonathan Taylor owners are starting to freak out as well. So if anything, you're going to want to go through and use this as a trade opportunity to try to grab Jonathan Taylor. And that is actually the reason why I'm a Jonathan Taylor owner, is I was able to give up a bag of chips for what he should be worth to get him. And now I have the running back one of last year. He's young. There's no reason he's going to have this massive drop off. I think that the Colts had a slow start. They're back into form, or at least partially back into form. And Jonathan Taylor's going to come back after a multiple week break and show us why he was the number 1 pick overall. All right, right behind him, we have Leonard Fournette in a get-right game for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Horrible game last week. There was the whole Tom Brady going to Robert Kraft's wedding news and, whatever you want to call it, just all that drama, I guess. His whole situation with his wife looks like it's deteriorating. He looks like he is just stressed out and not in a good spot, but it's Tom Brady. He's going to figure it out as the season gets further on down the, closer to playoffs and that starts to become something that gets into question and concern. Tom Brady's going to start to produce. And even without Tom Brady producing, Leonard Fournette has been great. So He is the lead back in this backfield. There was, Rachaad White started to come up for a little bit. And I think he's still going to be there to take some touches away in the passing game. But Leonard Fournette's going to get the lion's share of all touches out of the backfield and through the air. And going up against the Carolina Panthers, who are allowing 25.1 fantasy points per game to this position, I think Leonard Fournette is going to be a locked-in top 10 running back for the rest of the season, barring injury. Right behind Leonard Fournette, we have Alvin Kamara. Alvin Kamara is looking at a kind of whatever matchup in my book against the Arizona Cardinals. I think that this is going to be... Let me think about it. I mean, one thing we need to, keep in mind is that Chris Olave is still coming back from that concussion. Looks like he should return. Michael Thomas is still dealing with a little bit of an injury. Jameis Winston is still dealing with a little bit of an injury. So I think Alvin Kamara is what that team is leaning on right now. And we've seen that over the past 2 weeks. I would kind of throw away the beginning, I think it was 2 or 3 weeks that he played and didn't really produce at a very high level. I would throw it away because we saw him miss after that, kind of giving us evidence that he was dealing with an injury during those bad games. And ever since he's came back, he's been looking like Alvin Kamara of old. And I think, he hasn't even had that high of an efficiency rating in the touchdown department. So if he starts to get those touchdowns up, he falls in once or twice, along with the stats that he has been putting up. Alvin Kamara is looking like he's good old Alvin Kamara, and you can throw him in to your lineup as a top 8 play in week 7. Right behind him, we have Ramondre Stevenson. Now, I made a trade 2 weeks ago, knowing that Ramondre Stevenson was going to start to pop off. But this was before the Damian Harris injury. It was literally right before the game where Damian Harris got injured, and I traded straight up Ramondre Stevenson for George Kittle because I was a Kyle Pitts owner, and I was in a must-win situation in my league. So even though I don't regret the trade because I also got a decent week out of George Kittle last week, it really hurts to see what Ramondre Stevenson is doing without Damian Harris and earning that spot on that offense. He has just been an absolute running back stud, and there's no reason it's going to change here going up against the Chicago Bears, who allow 24.9 fantasy points per game to the position. I think Ramondre Stevenson is just an absolute stud at the running back position. He's very talented. Damian Harris is going to come back either this week or next week to take some touches away. So you could maybe target Damian Harris as a buy super low. But Ramondre Stevenson is the back you want to have in this backfield, and he's proven that over the past 2 weeks. So I think we start to see, even with Damian Harris back, we start to see the majority of the touches going towards Ramondre Stevenson. And, going up against Chicago Bears, we're loving the matchup. Ramondre Stevenson in the top 10. Last player in the top 10 is going to be Breece Hall. I think this is a running back. This is definitely a running back one for the rest of the season moving forward, barring injury, of course. And I think he's going to be a top 10 running back for the entirety of the season moving forward. He is just an absolute stud. No one can stop him. And going up against the Denver Broncos, which if we can find them real quick, kind of a whatever matchup, allowing 21.6 fantasy points per game. But being that Breece Hall can come out of the backfield, catch passes, put the ball on the ground, and be explosive and break out massive runs, he's a big play waiting to happen multiple times a game. And we've seen maybe 3 weeks in a row now where Breece Hall has had a shot at a 30-plus point running back production week. So I think it's only a matter of time that he just gives us a score that is like, okay, now everyone that was a non-believer is a believer now. I think he's a week or 2 away from a massive, massive fantasy performance. I'm not worried about the matchup here. I love Breece Hall for the season. And he's going to be in our top 10 unless he gets injured. And that's just my prediction. So Breece Hall, we're comfortably starting him as a running back 1. Right behind Breece Hall, we have Joe Mixon going up against the Atlanta Falcons. Also a whatever matchup right here. 21.5 fantasy points per game to the position. The issue here with Joe Mixon is just that front line. The line has been bad in pass blocking. The line has been bad in run blocking. We've seen it over and over, week in and week out, where Joe Mixon, has his opportunities on the goal line, 1 yard to go, 3 attempts in a row, and just doesn't get in. So his efficiency in the red zone has been horrible, and he's still been putting up like 10 to 15, 10 to 17 point games. I think he's in a position to start to progress and work his way back up to a top 10 running back. Because I don't think the bad efficiency is going to continue for much longer. I think the Bengals figured it out to a certain degree. We saw them figure it out through the air last week. And when the Falcons go and watch film from last week, what Jamar Chase did against that offense, what T. Higgins did against that defense, what T. Higgins did against that defense, they're going to plan for that, which is going to open up the running game a little bit more. So I think as the Bengals begin to kind of fall back in to last season form and get over the Super Bowl loss hangover, I think Joe Mixon is going to begin to start producing at a very high level, and he's going to be in our top 11 this week. Right behind Joe Mixon, we're going to welcome back DeAndre Swift. I would love to put DeAndre Swift higher than this, but he has a very tough matchup against the Dallas Cowboys. I do think that DeAndre Swift is matchup proof for the most part. However, I want to see it first. I want to see him come back and look healthy. That's what I'm worried about here. I'm a little more worried about DeAndre Swift, about his health than I am about Jonathan Taylor's health. So that's given him a little downgrade as far as the rankings go. But, DeAndre Swift, when he's healthy, when he's fully healthy, he's behind one of the best offensive lines in the entire league. A hyper-efficient offense. I know they had a slow week last week, but it's a hyper-efficient offense. And with DeAndre Swift back, that entire offense is going to start to eat. Amon-Ra St. Brown's coming back. So even though he's going to have some goal line touches taken away from him, Jamal Williams is going to take those touches, I think you still see DeAndre Swift the majority of the time, as well as some of those red zone touches. You're going to see all the passing work out of the backfield go to DeAndre Swift. So DeAndre Swift as our number 12 this week, but, I wouldn't be surprised if he gives us a great performance, assuming that he is healthy. And he might find himself back up in the top 10 next week. But for now, against Dallas, number 12. Right behind DeAndre Swift is Josh Jacobs. I did not expect Josh Jacobs to work his way this high into the rankings this quickly in the season, or really at all for that matter. I'm extremely happy because Josh Jacobs was my most drafted underdog fantasy Best Ball Mania running back in the entire position pool. So I love that I have a part of him, but especially this week where he's going up against the Houston Texans, who are dead last to the running back position, allowing 30 points a game. 30 points a game. And this number right here is for the running back position. So if you're in a committee, you are in Cleveland. You have Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt combined going for 30. On average to this defense. Josh Jacobs isn't sharing those touches nearly as much as some other backfields. So if you're going to have the sole back going up against a defense that allows 30 points per game to the running back position, I don't think we can put him anywhere lower than this. And honestly, the matchup calls for him to be ranked a lot higher than we have him. So Josh Jacobs, you are no question throwing in there as a running back 1 or 2, and you're really banking on a 20-plus point fantasy point production this week against the Texans. Right behind Josh Jacobs, we have Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones is tough for me because I don't know what's going on with this Green Bay Packer offense. We see the Commanders are allowing 21.6 fantasy points per game to the running back position, but the problem is we don't know what's going on with this Green Bay Packer offense. They keep saying they want to get the ball on the ground more, they want to run the ball more, and we keep not seeing it. But it's kind of the same situation. I think Aaron Rodgers has got to figure it out here soon, and I think Aaron Jones, he's always been that player that is 10 to 12 points, 10 to 15 points, and then one week he'll give you 40. And so you definitely are starting him. You don't want to see 40 points on your bench. But I can't get super excited about Aaron Jones, to be honest with you. I just have to put him here based on the opportunities that he's going to have. But I'm really not confident in anybody on the Green Bay Packers offense just because, 1 week you'll see, 14, 15 targets to Randall Cobb. 1 week you'll see 12 targets to Robert Tonyan. One week you'll see 20 plus opportunities to Aaron Jones. One week you'll see 18 touches to AJ Dillon. Like, I'm not super confident that this team has figured out what they're doing, and until then, it's going to be hard time. It's going to be hard putting that confidence into these players. But again, just based off of the talent, I'm going to bet on that talent as a top 14 play this week. So Aaron Jones right behind Josh Jacobs as 14. And honestly, I should probably have Dameon Pierce over Aaron Jones now that I'm looking at it again. Because Dameon Pierce has just been unbelievable. Unbelievable. The Raiders are kind of a middle of the pack defense against the running back position. So nothing super juicy there, but I mean, just do me a favor. Go to ESPN Fantasy, click on game logs, and just look at the past 4 games. Like, you can't. It's one of those situations where the volume is there, the efficiency is there, the big plays are there. So this guy is good for 20 to 30 points every single week, and going up against a decent matchup that should be a high scoring matchup. You know, this is a smash play. So Dameon Pierce as our last player in the top 15. Right behind Dameon Pierce, we have Kenneth Walker going up against a very exciting matchup, being the Los Angeles Chargers, allowing 28.3 fantasy points per game. Now, this is my opportunity. I should wait, but I can't. This is my opportunity to complain about what happened on Monday night last week. I went in to the week needing 30 points to win the game, 30 points even, from Austin Eckler and Melvin Gordon, going up against one of the worst run defenses in the entire league. And what happens? I get 25 of my 30 from Austin Eckler, and I get 0.8 from Melvin Gordon because he got benched for no reason in a very good matchup. So that was my opportunity to jam this point into, to jam my complaining into the point here that I'm about to make. And don't worry about what happened last week with the Chargers not allowing much rushing yards to the Denver Broncos. They're in shambles, but the Chargers are still a very bad defense when they go up against a running back. And, regardless of the matchup, Kenneth Walker, we don't have stats to back it up other than college, but college is kind of arbitrary. It's a theory until proven otherwise in the NFL. We don't take it for gospel, but Kenneth Walker the past 2 weeks, just straight eye test, has looked like a stud. And I'm not talking like stud for a rookie. I'm talking stud as in we could be seeing him in the top 15 or top 10 next week. I think he is on a high-powered offense. Surprisingly, he's on a high-powered offense. And he is getting all the touches out of the backfield, on the ground, through the air. And every time he has the ball, he looks good. He just is making people miss. He is breaking tackles. Like, he looks like the second best college prospect out of last year's draft behind Breece Hall. And I think he's just going to get better and better. Running back is the position you bet on youth. We know that from previous experience. So I have Kenneth Walker down here against the Los Angeles Chargers. But if he drops 25 this upcoming week, I'm not going to be surprised, and I will happily move him higher than we have him now. So Kenneth Walker at number 16. Ezekiel Elliott. I'm the biggest Ezekiel Elliott hater, but I will say I think the hate has gone a little bit too far. He had a really good week last week, and he's going up against the Detroit Lions, who allowed just shy of 30 points a game to the running back position. Tony Pollard does have that breakaway speed and that juice, but we get Dak Prescott back this week, or at least we think we do. And we're going up against a really good matchup. And I think this offense is going to be a lot more efficient than it was with Cooper Rush. I know the Cooper Rush excitement is, the hype was real, but at the same time, Dak Prescott is going to be better than Cooper Rush was. And that's going to mean more red zone touches for Zeke. So I think we're a week away, especially going up against this matchup, to having Zeke drop a couple touchdowns, give us kind of that old school Zeke performance. So even though I'm not a lover of Zeke, like I don't have him in any of my leagues, barely have him in best ball in best ball drafts, I think the hate has gone too far, and I think Ezekiel Elliott's going to, he's set up for a really good week this week. So Ezekiel Elliott right behind Kenneth Walker at number 17. Behind Ezekiel Elliott, we have David Montgomery going up against the New England Patriot defense. Now, this is a very bad matchup, very scary. The Patriots looked really good last week. Where are the Patriots? I know you guys are probably screaming at me from your... Oh, yeah, right here. I knew they were high. New England Patriots, 17.1 fantasy points per game to the running back position. I love David Montgomery as a running back. I'm just scared that he's not going to get a whole lot of touches, in the red zone this week. But 2 weeks ago, we saw him have an amazing performance through the air as well as on the ground. So he's earned his spot, in this top 20 position. But I'm very scared of the matchup, and I'm not really. I'm starting him, but I'm nervous. And some of it's at no fault of his own. That offense looks horrible. Justin Fields looks horrible. He can't keep the ball on the field. I honestly, if I could help it, I don't want any part of the Chicago Bears offense. And if you could sell David Montgomery high, do it. I doubt you can, but that all being said, he is still going to get the majority of the touches out of the backfield. He is a very good running back. And we are going to see a lot of volume out of him this upcoming week. So David Montgomery right behind Ezekiel Elliott at number 18. Right behind David Montgomery, we have Travis Etienne. He's been working his way back from the very slow start. I drafted him in a few of my leagues. I love the prospect. It only makes sense that he gets the majority of the touches, based off of the rapport with Trevor Lawrence, based off of the injury that James Robinson had last year, based off of the receiving capabilities. He's started to look very good in the past couple of weeks, as well as been out touching James Robinson in the past couple of weeks. So I think we are also a game or two away from Travis Etienne giving us that. He's been giving us pretty much 10 points every single week. No questions asked, no more, no less. I do think Travis Etienne is a couple weeks away from a 20-plus point game that really puts him on the radar. So you might be able to go through and trade for Travis Etienne low, get that running back that could develop into a top 15 running back this year. So I think the future looks very bright for Travis Etienne, but for this week specifically, going up against the very stout New York Giants, even though kind of middle of the pack. I mean, there's the New York Giants allowing just shy of 20 points per game to the running back position. So it's a little bit of a tough matchup, but Travis Etienne is going to get that opportunity. And because of that, we're going to throw him into our lineups this week. Right behind Travis Etienne, we have Clyde Edwards-Helaire going up against the 49ers. So very exciting play here. Honestly, I wish I had him low. I just Clyde Edwards-Helaire is a guy that you have to put, the reason I'm so grossed out about this is you have to put him up here because he's the running back one of the Kansas City Chiefs, the highest scoring offense in the entire league, I believe. Correct me down below if I'm wrong on that, but Kansas City Chiefs running back one should be a smash play no matter what. But he was overly efficient at the beginning of the year. And we were saying it over and over and over again. Sell him, please sell him. Do not buy him. Don't start him. Just sell him. Get rid of him. Because he was way too efficient with a very low amount of touches. Now, he came out and surprised us all and got 19 touches against the Bills on the ground, which was very non-characteristic of him. But I think that was the outlier game. And I am not starting Clyde Edwards-Helaire confidently at all. But he is going to have those red zone opportunities. He's going to have the opportunity to fall into the end zone and get you 20 points out of nowhere on 5 touches. So you have to... You don't have to start him. I take that back. You don't have to start him. I wouldn't. But I also wouldn't have him on my team. I would have sold him a long time ago. So if you still have him and you still believe in him a little bit, I'm sure you are starting him this week. But, man... You got to be nervous with Clyde Edwards-Helaire. He had a horrible week last week, and I think there's more to come like that. So, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, number 20. Get rid of him. Right behind CEH, we have Brian Robinson on the come-up. He established himself as the lead back last week over Antonio Gibson. Even though Antonio Gibson did look good when he had the ball, I got a notification on ESPN or Fantasy Pros that he is confirmed to be the lead back moving forward over Antonio Gibson. So that fact was confirmed by the coach. He's an Alabama running back where, all running backs from Alabama have had their time in the spotlight in the NFL. He has a very weird running style. He's a very upright runner, almost like Derrick Henry, but a lot smaller of a back. But, he produced. He got 60 yards, a touchdown. He's going up against the Green Bay Packers, who have allowed massive gains to the running back position, and they're allowing 23 fantasy points per game to the running back position. And there's no reason why Brian Robinson shouldn't take advantage of that. So I don't think you're looking for a 20-plus point game here, but if you can get 10 to 15 points out of Brian Robinson, that's probably all that you need, especially because you probably picked him off a waiver wire. And, he's in a position to succeed this week, and I think I'm a little curious to see what happens over the next couple weeks as well, to see what kind of talent we have with Brian Robinson. I feel like we haven't really got the full Brian Robinson experience one way or the other. So look out for which way he should be trending after this week. I think a lot of it will be based off of this week, what he does. But as far as confidence going into the week goes, he's going to be a top 21 running back, which puts him in that RB2 category. Brian Robinson versus Green Bay. Right behind Brian Robinson, we have Najee Harris, the first-round pick, going up against Miami at Miami, middle of the pack matchup, 22.8 fantasy points per game to this position. But Najee Harris has to fall into the end zone to be relevant. I think he's a lot like Brian Robinson as far as where his fantasy points will come from. It's going to come from running the ball and falling into the end zone. They both of them pretty much have to fall into the end zone to be relevant on the week. And I'm not super excited about betting on the Pittsburgh Steelers offense to get him in the red zone in the first place. So Najee Harris is definitely not a must-start at this point. But he's still an RB2 in our rankings. I don't know. I think you can kind of catch my drift about how I feel about Najee Harris and how you should also feel about Najee Harris. Not exciting. Might have to throw him in there, especially with these massive bye weeks occurring this week. But, man, just throw him in, close your eyes, and hope for the best, because Najee Harris has been a massive disappointment this year. Speaking of massive disappointments, we have A.J. Dillon right behind Najee Harris at Washington. We saw a really big, really solid week from him in week 1, and then pretty much nothing from there on out. I think this could change, disregarding an Aaron Jones injury, because if Aaron Jones ever got injured, then A.J. Dillon would by default be a top 10 back. But regardless of injury, I think even sharing the backfield, he can produce on a very high level if they start giving a lot of the touches to the running back position like they said they would. And I think A.J. Dillon's talent profile allows for high-scoring fantasy point games. But until we see it done, until it's proven otherwise, he's going to be on my bench. He is on my bench. And I'm definitely in a prove-it situation with A.J. Dillon right now where I want to see a bigger game before I throw him in. Now, you can argue, you're going to sit him. He's going to have the big game. Next week, you'll play him, and then he'll have a bad game again. That's kind of the trend of fantasy football in general, as a matter of fact. But, I'm really scared with A.J. Dillon. I'm not excited. This whole category is going to be running backs that don't get much work out of the backfield through the air and pretty much have to fall into the end zone to be relevant. So, I think you saw it already, but Jeff Wilson Jr., same thing. Terrified to play him because of what happened last week. He fumbled, got put in the doghouse, didn't play for the rest of the game. I know that all too well because I played him. Right along with our guy after him, got no fancy production. He's going up against the Kansas City Chiefs, who are allowing a lot of points to the running back position, which is honestly why we have him here in the first place. I would probably have him a little bit lower. I would have him a lot lower if he wasn't going up against this matchup. But assuming that he's going to be the starting running back going into week 7, we're going to put him in our lineups. Honestly, I should have Jeff Wilson over... I probably should have Jeff Wilson here. The reason if last week, if he didn't get benched last week, I would have him a lot higher. I probably would have him more like right here. But I'm just not sure if he's going to be the starting running back, if he's going to split touches. We have Elijah Mitchell on the horizon coming back. there's a lot of uncertainty behind the 49ers backfield. I'm not confident starting him, but if he is a starter in a good matchup, he's going to give you good production. So Jeff Wilson against the Kansas City Chiefs at Kansas City as our number 24. And right behind Jeff Wilson, pretty much identical story, Melvin Gordon. I don't think I have the emotional capacity to talk about him that much. I saw a report on Fantasy Pros that him and Nathaniel Hackett had a quote unquote great talk with Melvin Gordon and assured us that Melvin Gordon will be the starter moving forward for this Broncos offense. So I don't know what happened between Melvin Gordon and Nathaniel Hackett. Am I missing that? Hold on, let me check just to make sure. Nathaniel Hackett, yeah. I just told you about the situation where I needed 5 points from him and he couldn't even give me one. But man, against this New York Jets defense, who have actually been pretty solid against the run, only allowing 21.5 fantasy points per game, following the trend of this category that requires a touchdown to be fantasy relevant. But he is a starting running back, so we've been told. We've seen production when he gets the touches. Production relative to what we expect of him. But this is just terrifying. It is so hard to start a running back the week after they got benched for a non-injury related reason. So Jeff Wilson, Melvin Gordon, both similar scenario. We are terrified to start them, but if you have players out on buys, you might have to. So if you have to start one of these guys, I'm praying for you. But they can have, they do have a 20-point ceiling, which in this running back position, it's not very common to find people that even are capable of a 20-point game. So that's why we have him so high, but we are terrified to start him. Moving on to our 26th running back is going to be Raheem Mostert against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, the Pittsburgh Steelers have been pretty bad against the running back position. Bad to average, I guess you could say. 23.5 fantasy points per game. But Mostert has been bad to average. We saw that 1 week where he got a lot of touches when Teddy B went down and the third-string quarterback. I know, I think it's what's his name? Skylar, I think. Skylar Thompson. He was with Skylar Thompson last week and didn't do anything, but the week before that he produced. He is the lead running back in the Miami Dolphins offense. They are getting Tua back, so there's some silver lining there, but Raheem Mostert is good for anywhere between 1 point to 20 points. So very scary to put him in. Very volatile player. But again, it's a very difficult position to deal with throughout the season. Probably the second most difficult behind tight end. And based off of the other options, Raheem Mostert unfortunately might have to be started in your lineup, but try to avoid it if you can. And to be honest, if it's a flex play, I'd rather go with a wide receiver, even a wide receiver off of the waivers. Right behind Raheem Mostert, we have Kareem Hunt. Now, Kareem Hunt against the Baltimore Ravens has not usually done too well. Let's see. Ravens are a middle-of-the-pack team as when it goes to fantasy points allowed to the defense or to that position. But Kareem Hunt specifically, and I know this because I'm a Ravens fan, I've said it before, but Kareem Hunt has not done too well against the Ravens in past. But this is a player that I think you can trade for now. So let's go ahead and hit this trade target. I think this week I'm very low on Kareem Hunt, but in the future, I think Kareem Hunt is going to start developing again because I think this Browns offense is going to start developing again because Deshaun Watson is on the horizon. He's 5 weeks away now. After this week, he's going to be 4 weeks away from returning, which is going to bring the entire offense up. So I think, you're not giving away a lot for Kareem Hunt, but if you can secure Kareem Hunt as like a flex play or a depth piece and give up someone like Mostert and I don't know, a wide receiver of your choice, you could probably score Kareem Hunt for the future. But this week, don't expect too much. He could pop off for a touchdown or two, but definitely not reliable, and definitely not something we're going to get excited about this week. Right behind him, we have James Robinson. Kind of the opposite of what we said about Travis Etienne applies. James Robinson started off hot. He's coming off a full off season of rehab. He's got the excitement and the energy in the first few games. He comes out, produces. We think he's the lead back in this Jaguars offense. And then slowly but surely, he regresses and regresses and regresses. Before you know it, you have a player that is pretty much doing nothing week in and week out. I almost see him as the exact same position as A.J. Dillon. He's going to get those red zone touches so that when he does fall into the end zone, he will be relevant that week. But that week is going to be few and far between, and it's not something you can count on by any stretch of the imagination. We'll show you what the New York Giants are allowing again. So 20 points, I think Travis Etienne gets 15, James Robinson gets 5. Try to trade away James Robinson if you can. Right behind James Robinson, we have Eno Benjamin in the assumption that James Conner does not play. We do have DeAndre Hopkins coming back to this offense, even though we lost Marquise Brown. And we have Robbie Anderson coming in from the Carolina Panthers. So I say that because I think that the team is taking a step forward as a whole. I think the offense is taking a step forward as a whole. Which will allow Benjamin better opportunities to get red zone touches, as well as free up some running lanes if the New Orleans defense is going to have to play a successful passing game. So I think there's the silver lining in this offense and in Eno Benjamin, but I'm not super excited about it. I was really excited about Eno Benjamin last week before he gave us a complete dud. So again, not excited about it, but if James Conner doesn't play, you can go ahead and throw Eno Benjamin in your lineup if you need a flex based off of your other teammates being on bye. But again, not excited about it. And Tony Pollard. Tony Pollard is different than kind of everyone in these two I'll leave it in this category. He's different than everyone in these two categories, aside from maybe Kareem Hunt. I think Kareem Hunt and Tony Pollard are actually very similar in the sense that they are capable of taking a lead role for 1 week. If they're proven to be a hot hand, I think that these offenses are willing to feed the hot hand, when they see those outlier weeks that they're just really on. So we could see Tony Pollard get a blow-up week with a bunch of touches and big plays and a really nice fancy point production or a fancy production on the week. But you just don't know when those weeks are going to come. It's like throwing a dart in the dark. You don't know when those weeks are going to come. If you are, if push comes to shove, you can throw him in your flex and hope that you're going to hit the week where he does perform. Because I think when he does perform, he gives you very solid fancy point. I keep saying that weird. He gives you. You're very happy with his fantasy production. Few weeks. I don't know. Well, this is getting ugly, but you have no idea when those weeks are coming is my point. My point is that they're not like Eno Benjamin, James Robinson, and Raheem Mostert, where you're just terrified of the actual talent. Kareem Hunt and Tony Pollard, you actually love the talent. They just have someone better in front of them or someone in front of them that gets more volume. But when the hot hand is hot, the teams will feed it. So that was confusing, I know. But regardless, try to not start Tony Pollard or Kareem Hunt this week if you have the option. But like I said, there are a ton of very good offenses on bye this week. So you might have to. And I think you're more comfortable starting Kareem Hunt and Tony Pollard over someone like James Robinson and Eno Benjamin. It's just a matter of probability. So this is our rankings for week 7 at the running back position. I really hope you guys enjoyed this format. I hope it was a lot more helpful, better optics than previous weeks. And look for this to be the format moving forward. I will take any suggestions in the comments below, but bear with us. We're taking those steps little by little. Be an OG. Go down and drop that subscribe. ring the notification bell so you get notified when we drop ranking videos and our live, so you can come hang out, ask your questions, and just shoot the shit. We'll do some underdog drafts the morning of, Sunday morning. We're going to do some pick'ems, maybe do a DraftKings lineup here or there just for fun while we answer questions. So drop a like if you like the video. The wide receiver ranking video will come out tomorrow. I know what I learned last week is that Wednesday and Thursday is way too late to release these ranking videos, and I saw that in the views. So moving forward, these videos are going to get pushed up to Tuesday and Wednesday. Running backs on Tuesday and wide receivers on Wednesday, unless we have an overwhelming suggestion to flip them in the comments below. So we are going to start putting them out earlier, but this week there was a lot of work to go into the new format. So we're going to be on the old schedule for this week again, but in the future, we'll shift them up. I hope you guys are having a great week. Go out, get some trades done, have a little bit of fun. Don't be too scared. Be active on the waiver wire. Never not be working, as the fantasy footballers would say. So appreciate you guys for coming out. We'll see you tomorrow. Peace out.